He's going to use that microphone right there and going to share a little bit of his story with us. You guys listen to him.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm excited to be here. I came from a long ways away. Has anyone heard of the state that I came from? Texas? No. Kansas? No. Missouri. Also known as Missouri. No, it's not Missouri. It's a long ways away. Russia is not a state, but we'll cover that this year in middle school. Don't worry about it. So I came from Missouri. Missouri is far away, and it's about 26-hour drive, maybe even longer than that. But God led me here, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about how God led me here today. But before we begin, I want to kind of share with you a little bit about where I came from when I was your age and even younger than that. I grew up in Europe. So how many of you do we have any international students in here? Will you raise your hand if you're an international student, okay? Where did you grow up? British Columbia, very good. Very good. Well, I grew up in Italy. The first school I ever went to was an all-Italian school. The first language I learned was Italian. I don't remember any of it. My mother is a full-blood Italian, and it was exciting growing up in Italy. My dad was military, and when I say military, every kid wants their dad to be able to be like this. My dad was a Green Beret. He was also what they called back then a Maroon Beret. He jumped out of airplanes. He served in Vietnam. He could kill a man with his pinky. I mean, he was one of those guys. He was a bad guy. And I grew up in a military family. Then we lived in Germany. How many of you have ever been to Germany? Raise your hand. So several of you. That's more than I thought. So lived in Germany for a while, for about 4 years. And then finally, we ended up in North Carolina, which is all the way on the other side of the United States, on the East Coast. And then I ended up in Florida for college. And then I ended up in Tennessee for about 16 years as a principal of a private academy called Hendersonville Christian Academy in the Nashville, Tennessee area. And then I ended up in Missouri at St. Joseph Christian School as a superintendent. Spent some time in the public school system for about 2 or 3 years, and then now I'm here in Washington, and we're excited to be here. But God truly led us here. I don't know if you understand that, but I hope you understand that God kind of works that way. He really does. 3 months ago, I was sitting in my office, and I was thinking, this is where God has me for the rest of my life, my career, in Missouri. I just know this is where He has us. And then all of a sudden, the Lord began working on my heart. And He began speaking to me about, hey, you should check out this school in Washington. I didn't even know where Washington was. So I thought, well, I guess I'll check out this school in Washington. And one thing led to another, and here I am today. And God brought us here. So we're excited to be here. When I say we, I mean my family. My wife's name is Jody. And my 3 children. I have a 3rd grade son. His name is Weston. And then I have a 7th grade daughter, so you'll see her around. Her name is Avery. And then I have a junior daughter, and her name is Kinsey. And we are excited to be here in Washington, in Vancouver, Washington. I wanted to kind of share with you a couple of things about my childhood. First of all, when you grow up in Europe, there's some things that you can do that maybe you don't get a chance to do. So I was able to play in Hitler's caves. That's a true story. How many of you know who Hitler is? I played in Hitler's caves. They're all over Germany. And we literally, when we said, hey, Mom, we're going to go out and play, what we meant was we're going to go to Hitler's caves and play. Pretty neat. Our field trips were to castles. How many of you have ever been to a castle or seen a castle? There aren't too many castles in the United States. But in Europe, the castles are everywhere. They're not everywhere like gas stations and things like that, but castles are pretty much everywhere. And so we were able to go to castles for field trips. And there was one castle that was built on the side of a mountain. The only way up is to climb up these very steep stairs. The only way to get to it from the top of the mountain is to climb down these very steep stairs. And two brothers built this castle for their girlfriend because they were fighting for the same girl. And they built this castle in the middle of this mountain. When they were done, the legend is that one brother pushed the other brother off the mountain, and then he ended up getting the girl, and of course, he also got the castle. So, true story, I think. The castle's real. I don't know about the story of the brothers. Another thing that I was able to do, you guys may be too young for this, but there is a gentleman that ran in the Olympics. I can't remember the year. I should know the year, but I can't remember the year. Maybe one of the history teachers can help me. And the gentleman that ran in the Olympics, he was the very first. Now, if you knew anything about the Germans thought, not anymore, but they thought back then that they were the master race. And so Hitler prepared all these athletes to show the entire world that, hey, we're better than everybody. We're better than the Russians. We're better than the Americans. We're better than the British. We're better than the Canadians. We're better than everybody. Well, there was an American that came over to the Olympics. History teachers, can you help with the guy's name? I can't remember. Jesse Owens. And Jesse Owens was living in the United States at a time where he wasn't even accepted in the United States. Jesse Owens was an African-American male, and he went over to the Olympics, and he not only won, he dominated every single American, every single German, every single everybody, right there in Munich. I had the privilege of playing soccer in that same complex. I don't play soccer anymore, obviously, but I had the privilege of playing soccer in that same complex. So we had a lot of nice things growing up because we lived in Europe. Something that a lot of people don't get to say, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I love athletics. I appreciate the fine arts. How many of you in here play an instrument? Raise your hand. So several of you. How many of you are really good? Keep your hand raised. If you're sitting by someone who's not very good, raise your hand. No, I'm kidding. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. I also enjoy learning. You may not know this yet, and I hope that one day you will, but one day you're actually going to enjoy the idea of learning new things. You really are. I know you don't believe it right now, but you're going to enjoy learning new things. And when it comes to learning, I just love everything about school. I was one of those kids that did not like school also. However, as an adult, summer break, I'm done with summer break after about 2 or 3 days. And then I'm ready to come back to school. I know there are probably not too many kids like that in this room. Probably not too many kids. I know for sure my kids are not that way. But I enjoy school. I enjoy everything about school. One of the reasons why I enjoy school is because I enjoy learning. It's hard work, but I enjoy learning. Anything you do that's difficult, there can be some potential gains from that. In other words, there could be some potential excitement if it's hard work. A lot of times I see kids your age, and even adults my age, that they try something, and if it doesn't work out the first time, they're done. My son is really into that. My son will do a few push-ups and a few sit-ups, and then he'll look at me and he'll say, "Daddy, what do you think? What do you think?" I'll say, "Weston, what are you talking about?" He says, Do I have a six-pack? Do I have a six-pack?" "Son, you've done sit-ups one time. You can't have a six-pack after doing sit-ups one time." But that's how he thinks. That's how his little brain thinks. Well, it's the same way with learning. It's the same way. You can't go to class one time and expect to be the smart kid. It takes hard work. It takes really hard work. It also takes hard work to look beautiful, does it not? For some folks, it takes a little bit longer. However, I bet there are a few of you in here today, and I'm not just talking about the girls. I bet there are a few of you in here today who woke up a little bit early and you decided to maybe put on your favorite outfit, maybe a new outfit, maybe not. For those of you who say, no, not me, we know. No, I'm kidding. Maybe not, but some of you probably thought, well, I'll fix my hair a little bit nicer today. Maybe I'll curl it if I'm a girl. Or maybe I'll curl it if I want to look a little different than I normally would, maybe a little bit more beautiful than I normally would. Sometimes it just takes hard work to be beautiful. It really does. You probably did not wake up this morning and decide to just look in the dirty clothes for a shirt. You probably did not wake up this morning and decide, I don't know if I really even ate anything while I was sleeping, so my breath's probably not that bad. I won't brush my teeth. I'm kind of in a hurry. You probably did not wake up and say, this is not really that important. I'll just put on anything. It doesn't matter if it matches or not. You probably didn't have that go through your mind. Well, sometimes that shows. Sometimes it shows. So being beautiful, or the idea of beauty, is noticeable, isn't it? It's noticeable. Well, let me tell you a quick story about Vladimir the Great. Vladimir the Great was a leader in Russia about 1,000 years ago. And Vladimir decided that he wanted to find the religion for his people, the Russian people. And so Vladimir hired a bunch of people. This guy was a rich guy. He hired a bunch of people. He said, I want you guys to go travel the entire world. Then that means Europe. I want you to go all throughout Europe and find the religion for the Russian people. The best religion out there. And so all of his consuls went out to try to find. They found all types of religions. They found religions that were mean. They found religions that were a little bit different. They found religions that made you look a certain way. They found religions